Today I'm going to share with you one of the simplest recipes you've probably ever heard of in your life, and perhaps one of the most useful recipes in the entire world. Stay tuned, as in the next few minutes we make our own organic apple cider vinegar. It's super easy and I can't wait to share with you how to make it. I felt entirely guilty that I didn't know about this recipe until just about a couple of years ago. I have been spending a lot of money over the years on organic apple cider vinegar, raw, unfiltered, with the mother, just like we've been told is so very good for us. I take a couple of tablespoons every single day, and so this bitter, acidic taste I've never gotten used to enjoy, even though there are a million different recipes for you to disguise it and make it more palatable. But once I discovered homemade vinegar, oh my goodness, you can't keep me away from it. In fact, I will find myself wanting more than just my 2 tablespoons a day. I would love to take it in the morning and the night. It's so delicious. So I can't wait to share with you this very simple recipe. It's going to save you a ton of money for starters. But it's going to replace what you've been buying perhaps in the organic market if you buy organic, raw, unfiltered, with the mother apple cider vinegar of any kind of brand name. All right, so with this one costing maybe as much as $6 or $7, this that we're going to make today, I'm going to guess, is probably more around the range of about $3 for maybe even a gallon worth of vinegar. It's crazy. So let's walk through this, okay? You're going to need 3 ingredients. Real simple. You're going to want apples. They can be organic or non-organic. However, if you use the organic ones, you can use the entire apple, including the core and the stem and every bit of it. So that's what we're going to use today, is organic apples. And you can use any kind. So if you have an old apple tree and you're not even sure what kind of apples it's making out there, that's probably going to work just fine. Any kind of apples will do. I kind of like the little bit of tartness of the Granny Smiths, so that's what we're using today. Nextly, you're going to want either honey or sugar. And I'm going to say, in defense of sugar on this one, it's going to make a little hint sweeter vinegar, and it just makes it quicker. This is kind of a waiting process for this to make, so I get organic raw sugar, but I do use sugar. I don't use the raw honey that I use for everything else. Raw honey is great for a lot of different things, but in this, it's just going to take it so long to make, and it'll be so mild. I'm not sure how good the recipe is going to turn out. All right, and then you need water. Filtered water preferably. So those are your only 3 ingredients, and you're going to make some fantastic vinegar. So this is what we do. Watch close, because this is going to go really fast. I've already washed my apples, so they're ready to go. I'm going to literally just cut them up in pieces. It doesn't have to be any rhyme or reason, but I'm just going to make them, chunked into about 6 or 12 pieces and throw them into some sort of a big container. For this one, I'm using my grandmother's old crystal pitcher because it looks so pretty sitting on the counter. Can I tell you just how fun it is to actually use the entire apple? I know this sounds silly, but it actually feels like you're doing something a little bit rebellious. Everybody else in the world is spending their time with their special apple corers or all of their fancy ways to get their apples cleaned and spiffed up before they use them. And I am using every single bit of this apple. And it goes so quick, I just feel like I'm the little kitchen rebel over here, which makes this extra fun. I'm going to put in here, about as many apples as are going to fill this up. Just loosely. No science about it. The thing I'm keeping in mind is just to keep a mental note of how many apples I use, because I'm going to end up putting in about, somewhere in the vicinity of a heaping teaspoon of sugar for each apple. And yes, some apples are little and some are big, and that's why it's all to taste. And really there's no wrong about it. All you need is a little bit of sugar interacting with the apples to get that acetic acid. I think it's bacteria that starts to form through all of that process. And So it really doesn't have to have an exact amount. I just kind of roughly try and get about a teaspoon of sugar for every apple, no matter how big or how small. All right, so we've got it completely filled, almost up to the top here. We want a little bit of space, just so you know, it's going to expand and bubble just a smidgen when it gets started in its process, so we don't want to max out the entire height of the vessel. All right, now the easiest way to figure this out is roughly, I take a cup of water that's filtered, and I'm going to pour into it about, a heaping teaspoon for each apple that I threw in there. So just roughly, I'm going to throw in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe that's about how many I had in there. I didn't worry about it getting too exact. I'm going to stir this up just a little bit, and it looks to me like I'm going to have the water run over. But I'm using this wooden spoon just as my reminder to tell you this. I can use whatever I want to stir this up a little bit right now, but once I've got the apples and water and sugar going in here, there's something that the scientists know that we don't about the reaction of metal with vinegar that you don't want. So I'm going to pour the water and sugar in here, and from then on I'm going to make it my own rule to only stir the apples and vinegar that's being made with a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon. Pouring that down through there, and no, the sugar is not all dissolved. That's just fine. I'll just pour it over the top here, which is wonderful. And then once I've got it, I was just getting it a little bit stirred up, but now I'm going to fill the rest of that vessel up all the way up, I'd say to within an inch of the top with water. And I'll use this same cup so that I get all the rest of that yummy sugar out of there. But we'll go ahead and fill the rest of this up with water, and I'll meet you back here in a minute. Yay! Okay, there we have it. Now, isn't that beautiful? All right, what you're going to see here, I might put just a smidgen more water in here, but you're going to notice that the apples kind of try to float up to the very top. That's what we want, and that's totally normal. The only thing is we don't want a whole bunch of apples peeking out of the water. So use whatever you want. Some people get a plastic bag weighted down with rocks or whatever it is that works for you. I found this old lid off of another jar that I just use kind of as a weight to push down on those, and since it's inverted, it kind of keeps water out of its top, but it holds those down like a little bit of a weight so that they're all submerged underwater. All right, nextly, we're going to want to put something over the top that can breathe. So some folks use either a loose fitting lid. If I were to put it into a ball jar, I would just make the lid very, very loose on top. Some people use cheesecloth. I like these coffee filters that are organic and natural, and I just put a rubber band around it. So that literally is what you're going to see sitting on my counter in the corner for the next couple of weeks. We need for it to breathe, and we need to take that off and stir it every few days here at first. What we're going to do is let this, just like you see here, with the exception of stirring it every few days, we're going to let it sit on the counter by itself in just a regular environment, not extra cold or extra warm, but regular environment for about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. If you go on a trip, don't worry, it can be 3 weeks, but somewhere in that 2-week range, 2.5 weeks, sitting on the counter. You might notice bubbles, and that's really a good sign. It means that it's starting to ferment and the apples are starting to kind of make that good bacteria that eats the sugar up. So you'll see a few little bubbles forming here and there. It'll expand a little bit higher in the jar, and that's wonderful. At the end of 2 weeks, it may or may not happen for you, but the apples might start to settle to the bottom, and that's a good sign. That means, hey, it's ready to be filtered out. You'll want to take all those apples out at that time. But we'll literally let this sit for 2.5 weeks, just like this. We'll take the apples out, and then we'll let it sit on the counter just like this, which is what it will look like, for about 4 more weeks. And then it will be vinegar, and we'll put it in the refrigerator, and that will last literally indefinitely. In the in-between process, just so you know, you're going to see little different occurrences that happen to it, like the bubbles, like the mother forming on it. Remember how you usually get the apple cider vinegar with the mother? And if you've wondered what exactly that is, it's kind of the, it's a little bit of a mucousy membrane that forms in it. It might settle to the bottom. It might make it a little bit milky like this, and that's really just fine. I don't filter it out, and it's very good for you, so I want to encourage you to leave it. But if it is offensive to you in any way, you can certainly take that out. Just strain it through some cheesecloth and you're good to go. If you do see mold growing on top while the apples are in it, be careful, because you don't want that to get out of hand. But once it's actually gone through the process enough to turn into real vinegar, vinegar eats mold. So it'll take care of any kind of little bit of mold that's on top. If I do see some sort of blackness or brown or gray growth on the top of this, I would be concerned. I would figure, hey, I did something wrong. I let some sort of bad little germ or bacteria get in there that we don't want, and I'd go ahead and throw it out probably and start over. If you start with extremely clean things and always keep a clean spoon to stir it with, you should have no problem at all. But it's so cheap that literally if you ruin a batch, it's okay to start over until you have a batch that works. Now, once you've got it this form, this is some vinegar that I made over the last 6 weeks or so. It started just like this in this exact container on my counter, 2.5 or 3 weeks. I strained out the apples and I put it in a jar and just let it sit there. Even this jar doesn't have a tight fitting lid. This little stopper on it holds it there, but it gives it just a little bit of room to breathe. Keep in mind also that it'll take a little bit longer during the winter just because the air is cooler, and it'll take a little shorter during the summer for this whole process to take place. It's all give or take, so don't worry about it. You haven't ruined anything if you let it go a little long or a little short. But this is the vinegar I made, and I can't even tell you how delicious it is. I have been enjoying a couple of tablespoons of it every evening before I go to bed, and it gives you a very good, strong constitution and helps with a lot of different things that might ail you. So if you're one of those folks like me that believes in drinking apple cider vinegar, you will think that this is probably the best vinegar you've ever tasted in your life. So there you have it. We have made the starter for homemade apple cider raw, unfiltered vinegar, and it's going to be the most delicious you've ever had. I'll set it there on my counter with a little apple beside it to make it pretty, and it will sit there and keep me company for a couple of weeks, remembering to stir it every few days. Then I'm going to absolutely enjoy it over the coming weeks. It'll take about 4 more weeks of just sitting there before it turns into full apple cider vinegar, but it's going to be a wonderful, enjoyable treat for you and your whole family. Now, will you take just a minute and let us hear from you? We absolutely love to hear your comments and suggestions down below. And will you take a minute and share this with somebody else that it might help? I'm telling you, apple cider vinegar is one of the most miraculous inventions ever in the history of the world, I think. I hope you agree with me. I hope you enjoy the apple cider vinegar that you make in your home. But share and subscribe. Let us hear from you, and we're going to see you on another video. So until then, God bless you. Before you go, I want to share with you a couple verses from Psalm 68. Pretty cool verses 5 and 6. It says this: He is a father to the fatherless. He is a protector of widows. This is God in his holy habitation. He settles the solitary in a home, and he leads out the prisoners to prosperity. But the rebellious will dwell in a parched land. Now, go live with courage, seek God's wisdom, and let's meet around the banquet table and swap adventure stories.